You're listening to This Week in Clown World with Ben and Hobbs, so sit back, relax, take your black pill, and enjoy the show.
Why, good evening, friends. It's been a while since we've had a This Week in Clown World with Ben and Hobbs. He's Ben, I'm Hobbs, you're in Clown World, and you know that already. How are we doing this evening?
I am doing well. I hope you guys enjoyed that creepy AI pre-show. The alternative Earth, I noticed one thing missing from all the AI images that gave us that futuristic utopia, but I'm not going to bring it up.
Well, now that you mention it,
Hmm.
guys, get down in the chat. Tell us what you think the common denominator is.
Yeah, I noticed about halfway through it. I was like, oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Ed Black will enjoy that if he catches that AI artist, a friend of ours. So shout out to him. What I kind of want to start with something that, we haven't had a show in a while, but this has been going on the whole time we haven't had a show, is these drones.
Yeah, it's been done to death, but we might as well give our 2 cents on it. Everybody's got an opinion. Most of them are stupid. What's that saying about opinions are like assholes? Everyone has one and they all stink.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ours will stink for sure. The weird ones I saw are the pictures of the orb drones. Have you seen those ones?
Yeah, I've seen a few of them.
I can't explain those. I mean, the ones with the lights are easy, but an
Yeah.
amorphous orb with rotating rings is kind of weird.
Yeah, it is a little bit weird, but then you can also take a look at some of the things that they're doing with drone light shows over in China, where they have like a whole bunch of tiny little drones, and they almost make like photorealistic, like a dragon in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
Because the drones, they have lights on them, and the lights are solidly on, and they're flying so fast that it's like if you swing a light on a string around, it looks like a perfect circle of light, even though it's like a light on the end of a string. But the drones are going so fast that they're making like a solid light show in the air. And so that could kind of explain away the amorphous orbs in the sky. Instead of being one drone with some lights on it, could be a whole bunch of drones doing acrobatics around each other on a
casually doing light shows over New Jersey.
It's not necessarily what they are that's bothering people. It's the speculation and the mystery behind them that's bothering people. And yeah, it could be somebody just fucking around. It could be our own government testing out some type of new technology or something. And there's a lot of stuff that our government has and foreign governments have that we just don't know about. But the thing about it is that a lot of these people are like, oh, these are Chinese spy drones, or this is the work of Iran, that technological powerhouse Iran being no,
that's our primary bad guy right now, isn't it? Or is Russia still number one?
I think Russia's still number one, but you know that Lindsey Graham is touching himself at night at the prospect that somebody's going to fall for the bullshit line that this is Iran spying on New Jersey of all fucking places.
Both we would be punching way below our level at this point. I mean, we're kind of itching for a new bad guy. I've seen people out there saying, they're using these drones to get us used to the idea they're going to introduce next season's bad guy, the aliens.
Yeah, Project Bluebeam, here we come.
Yeah,
right.
Which is really scrubbed from the internet if you try to find anything about Project Bluebeam. Interestingly enough.
Well, we're going to have Simon on with us, and I'm sure he'll be able to tell us all about it. It's one of those.
Simon, are you up on Project Bluebeam?
Yeah, I've read about that in the past.
What are your thoughts on is this they're queuing us up to introduce next season's bad guy?
I tend to leave Project Bluebeam to Alex Jones, to be honest.
That's an Alex Jones thing. I don't think people aren't off base, though. I mean, they got to justify all their spending for something, and if Iran and Russia don't make a sufficient boogeyman, where are they going to go next?
Yeah, I mean, it has been interesting that we're seeing all these reports about Trump now demanding the rest of the NATO countries to boost their spending not from 2% to 3%, but from 2% to 5% for defense spending. And in McConnell's article that he wrote for Foreign Affairs recently, he was saying we need to go back to the 1980s defense spending under Ronald Reagan, which was 6%. And he said that Jimmy Carter made a mistake by cutting it down to 4.5%. So that would be a doubling of American foreign spending. So we basically go from 1 trillion to 2 trillion while we're trying to balance the budget. And this is called a multi-generational investment in the national defense space. So some guys are going to get real freaking rich off defense spending increasing $1 trillion a year.
Well, considering I work for Raytheon now, I think I'm going to be rolling in the money.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but in the 80s, that was an easy sell because they had us convinced that Russia was the big bad and we had to spend all that money. Is that going to...
There we go. That's exactly how he's convincing them now. And he's saying that if they don't up it to 5%, he's going to tariff the heck out of them.
So it's like spend a shitload of money on your defense or spend a shitload of money on these tariffs. It's like...
And either way, you're giving it to America because you're going to be buying American oil, gas, and defense weapons. And he was real specific about that. It's basically a multi-trillion-dollar extortion on the European Union.
Do you think Joe Voter, I guess maybe they don't even care what Joe Voter thinks, but does Joe Voter going to be able to be convinced that Russia's the big bad guy that we need to spend all that money on?
No, I mean, they're going for this whole axis of autocracies, with the big four being North Korea, Iran, China, and Russia. But as other people in foreign affairs have been saying, the global south is much bigger than those four, and it's basically 85-15 America against pretty much the rest of the world, with the exception of the European vassals who apparently will self-destruct if ordered to do so, as we're seeing in the German economy. I mean, they were celebrating in Germany that the workers' councils and the management of Volkswagen have managed to negotiate only 35,000 job losses.
Oh, well, good for them. I mean, what's happened in Europe? When have you bought anything here in America and seen made in France or made in Germany on it?
Well, if you bought any good French wine, you've seen made in France.
Yeah, but other than like
wine and cheese,
like niche luxury items,
Yeah,
but
well, they're not all luxury items. I mean, they do actually export some excellent quality food that has less GMO and less pesticides in it. So that's always worth looking out for, right?
But you can't support your country on exporting food to rich people, or maybe you can. I mean, it seems like Europe's going to be in a downward spiral at this point.
Being a downward spiral, including to the May 2019 plan from the Rand Corporation for the deindustrialization of Europe. And Trump was trying to push that through by preventing Nord Stream 2 for connecting and, shutting off Nord Stream 1. This has been a plan they've had for 5 years since before COVID. You look that up. Rand Corporation, May 2019, the deindustrialization of Europe. People will be shocked at how much that's being executed now. Now that we've jacked up their energy prices 400%.
Were they? I mean, sure, you can say you're going to deindustrialize your country, but did they just do it without any backup plan of how they're going to fund their country?
No.
Or
that's America deindustrializing Europe.
Oh, America wants to do it. Oh, sure.
Manufacturing industries to China, and then we're going to steal them from Europe, and they're going to be the ones left holding the burning bag of dogs.
Oh, sure, fine, yeah. I mean, works for me, I guess. I've got no love for Europe. I mean, all of us are here because somebody in our past got pissed off at Europe. I mean, Simon's anger at Europe might be a little more recent, but my ancestors came over because they got pissed off at Europeans. I'm sure Hobbs did. Sorry, Europe, figure it out.
We weren't all coming here to steal the land from the Indians.
Yeah, well,
if we'd been Jewish,
Deus Volt.
Yeah, my ancestry is kind of on both sides of that transaction, so I don't know. But yeah, I'm all for doing what's best for America, but there is a situation where what's best for America doesn't have to be at the expense of anybody else,
The whole
especially
thing,
Europe.
that the Chinese say doesn't have to be a zero-sum game.
Exactly.
It can be win-win, make the pie bigger for everyone.
Right. Yeah, that's how the American system has always been up until fairly recently. It's like it's not a fixed pie, it's not a zero sum game. Everybody can benefit. It's like yes, some people will benefit more than others, but the rising tide raises all ships. What sounds like is like the Rand Corporation plan is we're going to have a rising tide while we sink your ship.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. There's plenty of water in the ocean to raise all of our ships.
I've said it before. I think we should have reach out more to South America. If we replace South America with Europe as far as our best buddies, that'd be fine with me. I mean, Alex Jones gets into the Rothschilds and all of them, and you have all that old money power still controlling Europe. Sorry, no love for Europe.
Part about South America that's really weird though is like the culture is very similar, but they also have an underlying culture, especially with things like liberation theology, that makes them very prone to socialism and communism. And that was, during the Cold War, the CIA did all sorts of shady shit in South America that probably doesn't endear them to us one tiny little bit, but it was to stop the onslaught of communism and socialism in South America simply because of that socialist underpinning of liberation theology that somehow wormed its way into the Catholic Church down there.
Have you seen Trump demanding that America gets given the Panama Canal back?
I saw that news. Was that a news story today?
Today.
I saw. I mean, is there some underlying treaty here?
The Russians want Alaska back and the French want the Louisiana Purchase back. So apparently we're going to reverse everything for the last 300 years.
Just Uno reverse for 300 years.
Well, I mean, hell, it worked. It worked for the Middle East after 1948. Hey, yo! You can just give shit back to their original owners, I guess.
Russia can try and claim Alaska.
He's really going to regret trying to unwind that. So good luck for that, right?
The amount of
it's an essential strategic route for moving the U.S. Navy from the Atlantic to the Pacific.
Yeah, it is. See, now, personally, I mean, I've said this before, like 2 or 3 years ago, but I think that we need to make an American canal. And you can make it all along the U.S.-Mexico border, and that kills 2 birds with 1 stone right there.
Well, that would be a good idea. Or we could just flood all the connections between the deep underground military bases and have it all flow underground in submarines. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe they'll meet up with some of the narco tunnels, and they could just widen them out, and there you go.
See, this is why people need to watch this show more. We're coming up with ideas here. We're idea men.
Hey, I'm a big believer in presenting solutions, not just identifying problems.
Exactly right. You got to be a solutionary.
I've always said that if you're gonna have a complaint, have a solution. I can't stand when people complain and they don't have a solution.
Hey, that's the whole Hegelian dialect, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Trump can say that. It's kind of like the crazy shit he said where he wanted Greenland too, I guess.
Or the annexation of Canada.
Long game here. He's sinking Europe. He's sinking the economy of Europe. So Denmark could sew in the hole. They finally want to sell off Greenland.
They already gave us indefinite basing rights in World War II, right? There's a good movie about that, about how America blackmailed the anti-Nazi government in exile based in Washington, D.C. to give up indefinite rights over southern Greenland so that we could use it for flying aircraft from New York to Europe via Greenland.
Mm-hmm.
And that was recently in the news, too. Some research vessel was flying over Greenland, and their radar pinged that what was the name of that base they had under the ice in Greenland?
The Century Base.
We dumped a shitload of nuclear waste in northern Greenland, and now the ice is starting to melt. It's all popping up.
Yeah.
Little regular waste, too. I guess it's just full of shit and depleted uranium there.
Yeah. I don't think it's that depleted. I think it's real hot.
Yeah. They were, if I remember right, they were going to check the viability of long-term not subterranean, but subglacial bases there, and they quickly realized that when you have to keep people warm inside of an ice structure, it doesn't necessarily last very long. And ice is really just slow-moving water.
I don't know. The Inuits figured it out with the igloos.
Yeah, but those aren't meant to last 100 years. That's why they called it the century base. It was supposed to last for 100 years, and they got like 2.5 out of it before they're like, "Hey, the ceiling is 6 inches lower than it was last year. We should probably get out of here."
I thought they wanted it to last for 1,000 years.
That's the Third Reich.
Sorry, aren't we working on the fourth right now?
Wrong evil empire.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's interesting talking about rights that the French people now seem to want a sixth republic. They think they've come to the end of the line for the fifth republic.
Try again.
Yeah.
Well, what is that? What do you mean there? Are the French
rioting
again? Or?
After Napoleon, you had the First Republic.
Yeah.
And then before the Second World War, you had the Fourth Republic. And then under de Gaulle, you had the Fifth Republic. And now they're saying that they want to have a sixth republic. So they want to get Macron out, and they want less presidential power, because that was all consolidated under de Gaulle. And so they want really more of a return to parliamentary government rather than American-style executive presidencies. Because the parliamentary government's working out so great in Germany at the moment.
You know, people talk shit about the parliamentary government doesn't seem to be faring better than executive style.
No, but at least it's easier to get rid of the bums. So Trudeau's hanging on for dear life. He actually saw good old WEF Christina Freeland resign this week, right? Then he had to do an emergency reshuffle of the government, and it just needs a letter to the Governor General from the leader of the third largest party, the NDP, that Jagmeet Singh bloke, the big turban. And then they'll have to have a recall of Parliament and a motion of no confidence. But there's about a quarter of the Canadian MPs are relatively new, and they're all hoping to cling on until October, so they qualify for these massive government pensions.
Boy, the American system isn't much better. We literally have people, you say Trudeau's government's clinging on for life. We have people in our government literally clinging on for dear life still.
Did you see that woman who hasn't been seen in Congress?
Yeah, Krager.
They just found she'd been in a mental institution suffering from dementia since June. Hasn't voted once since June, and somebody finally asked, "Hey, where's our representative?"
Yeah, I'll send the picture here from.
I thought it was one of those stories, like, oh, that can't be true. And I looked into it. Yep, sure enough, it was a story from the local town newspaper. They went to the nursing home she's at, and they're like, "Yeah, she's here."
How the hell did she get reelected? She didn't. Not only did she not campaign, nobody even knew where she was, and they reelected her in November.
Her staff's all getting a check still. What is it? 220,000.
Possible that you win your primary and you get re-elected and you haven't been seen in your home county for 6 months?
Well, there's stories out there of people who have just blindly voted for dead people because they have the right suffix next to their name, DRI, whatever it is.
It's like Sam says on Weaponized News. Vote blue, anyone will do.
Yeah. There's you live in Florida, so you get to encounter the average American voter enough. They're not they're not the people that you want voting, unfortunately.
The total number of House seats that changed, other than people who were retiring, was 5 out of 435.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people just love voting for an incumbent. They can't.
We really refreshed the tree of liberty with that turnover.
Hot take here: universal suffrage is a mistake.
Well, it may not be a mistake if we actually had universal suffrage. What we really have is like a 40% turnout.
Yeah. Well, I mean, eligibility is pretty much universal. It's just the people who are motivated enough to get off their ass and go to the polling place are about 40%. And of those 40%, probably 10 to 15 actually deserve to be able to do so.
Well, I mean, you've seen, I mean, McConnell I think he's had two more lockups that I can think of, where he just stands there and it's like he's shitting his, when you catch your toddler in the corner of the living room, just.
Yeah, but he's still writing for the Council of Foreign Relations, telling America to spend an extra $1 trillion a year for a decade to invest in national defense.
Why would he give
So
a shit?
he may be unable to wipe his butt and walk down a corridor without locking up, but he's still trying to direct his expenditure of $10 trillion extra.
Yeah, his staff is. Who knows what these people actually do?
This is my point. They claim they're doing it in our name, but whose name are they really doing it for?
Well,
and who's really calling the shots?
Pelosi fell and broke her hip.
Yeah. Well, somebody was saying that might just be an elaborate ploy to keep her in Europe until she can slime her way into a country that has a non-extradition treaty.
Which not going to be Luxembourg, but I mean, you look at how people like McCall were fawning over her. There's really, I don't know. It's amazing that McCall picked her up, stood her on his arm. They took the picture, and only then did she get taken to hospital.
Yeah, and the Dems, they continue.
Gentleman, so I helped her to her feet. I'm like, yeah, the old lady fell down the stairs, and then you forced her to stand on a broken hip that, had it shifted, would have severed her femoral artery. Good plan there. I really want that guy being my combat medic, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I saw AOC got shut down by the Dems.
Yeah, well, she was trying to become ranking member of House Oversight, which is a pretty powerful position. So she was like 40 years short of seniority for that position.
Yeah, they're supposed to be the party of the young people, though, and here's their chance. I mean,
yeah,
they're all over the place.
Minimum age of a Democrat ranking member, the number 2 head on all of the House committees now. Guess what the lowest age is?
The lowest age of any of them? It's
the lowest of any of them.
60s.
63. I'm gonna guess retirement age. Let's call it 65.
All in the right ballpark. It is actually 60.
Mm.
And one guy just got, the guy who beat AOC, he's like 74 and he's got throat cancer.
Good long-term strategy there, guys.
So he's going to be calling out those government shenanigans really effectively with his throat cancer. Yeah.
Can I get a quorum, please?
While we're ragging on the old people, I mean, have you seen Biden lately? Just the fact that they tried to push him off that he could survive another 4 years.
Nobody's seen Biden for a month.
Yeah.
When he was in Africa, did you see the footage of that one?
Yeah. When he went.
I mean, he looked terrible.
He fell asleep in front of 3 African presidents. Right
it
in
should
their
have been it should be criminal that they tried to say this guy could last 4 years.
Speaking of not seeing Biden or Harris for that matter since the election and everything, I was seeing some chatter online last night about how they were rushed to the White House.
Yeah,
either last night or the night before.
Friday morning at dusk.
Yeah, what was that all about?
That's very interesting because that was never explained. They literally went, what do they call it? I don't know, twos and blues or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Sirens and lights in a big convoy rushing Harris before 7 a.m. to the White House. And they flew Biden in from Delaware, where apparently they had to search the beach to find him. And nobody then explained what the hell that emergency was all about.
Boy, 7 a.m. for Harris. I bet she still smelled like a barroom floor on Sunday morning.
Yeah, she was hungover still. She's got to have a drinking problem. There's no way to explain that last video she put out. There's no way to explain that type of behavior.
But why would the staff think that was a good idea to publish that, right?
See, I don't think the staff did that. I think she got a hold of her official phone and got on there and was like, "You remember, got you got power. Don't forget that." And they're like trying to bang on the door, like, "No, don't let her post that to Twitter."
Yeah, then
Mom, Aunt Kathy just drank a box of wine and she's posting on Twitter again.
yeah, then if she said something, she's like,
Read
"Yeah,
a
I
bottle
did
of
that."
wine.
It's like,
It's
wow.
been a long time since I've drunk a whole one of those on my own. But yeah, that is four bottles to people who aren't counting them up. But yeah, it does seem that some of those people. I mean, obviously Nancy's trying to avoid pissing so much, so she just drinks the straight vodka. It's much more efficient.
Yeah.
Well, and there's still people saying she thinks she's going to be in the running for the next election too.
For what, dog catcher?
She's too dumb to know that she shouldn't do it. I think. I'm sure she'll be there again. Somebody's going to give her money. She'll get enough money to go around and goof. I mean, why wouldn't you? Shit, it's not real work. All bills are paid.
I was hearing something about them just basically giving her the governorship of California just to keep her off to the sidelines. Like, you go run California. It's basically on autopilot straight into the toilet now. You can't make it any worse.
Maybe they'll give her the control of the canal. What do they call it? The
locks.
The locks. Yeah, she could be Governor General of the Panama Canal Zone, right?
The new. Well, and you brought up the governor of California, Newsom's. I'm sure Sam went into this. I didn't get to watch your guys' show last week, but I guess he declared another pandemic
because one person got sick who was surrounded by dead chickens on a farm.
In Louisiana.
That would generally be a warning sign, right? But yeah, in freaking Louisiana. So let's declare a state of emergency like 1,500 miles away. That makes a lot of sense. Right?
So did Sam say if all the masks are out again?
No, it's going to be the emergency declaration is a lot stricter. It's like you must follow all health authority declarations. Line up for shipments to the camps.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah. So no, that's on paper. It looks, and I appreciate on paper and execution, if you excuse the pun, it's not necessarily the same thing, but it's looking pretty bad.
Yeah.
And we're going to see if like Illinois and Oregon and Washington and New Jersey all kind of like clamor to follow suit, right?
Oh, I bet those guys probably just can't wait to do another lockdown.
Guys, the election's already passed. You're not going to be able to fortify anything anymore. What's the point?
I'd be curious out that way how many people are still wandering around with masks on. I mean, I wonder what percentage of the population in California is still masking up. I mean, it's almost.
I don't know what percentage of the parents are going to offer their kids up for experimentation again.
Yeah.
In California, probably a lot of them, I would guess.
LAUSD, the Los Angeles Unified School District, got 89% compliance. 89% for under 18-year-olds.
Yeah. My mom was telling me something about how they're going to be rolling out clinical trials for an mRNA based what was it? It was one of the childhood diseases that's really RSV, I think.
They had to cancel that because it was injuring the kids.
Yeah, that's what she was talking about.
So Moderna tried to do the 3-in-1, which was the flu, the COVID, and the RSV. That was a complete calamity, injured people in Australia. Then they broke them out to try and do separates, and even the separate RSV has been a clusterfuck. But they're still building the factories to roll out the self-replicating mRNA in Australia and in Japan.
And that's the one that's the contagious vaccine,
that's
right?
The contagious vax that you will be jabbed by your co-workers breathing on you, basically. Yeah.
Oh, what could go wrong there? I think a lot of zombie movies start that way.
Yeah, there's like a whole subgenre of science fiction, body horror, and God knows what else that revolves around this particular plot line. Yeah, that's like my mom was telling me about this RSV mRNA thing, and she's like, the thing that bothered her the most about it wasn't necessarily the fact that it was hurting kids. It was the fact that parents were offering their kids up to be basically guinea pigs for something. She's like, what parent would do that? And I'm just,
A lot.
yeah.
A lot of woke white women who do it before they have their children's genitals removed, and a lot of African American families who enroll their kids in multiple programs because they get a few $1,000s per kid per program.
Oh, speaking of African American families, I want to dive into that thing I sent you right before the show that I stumbled across.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this came from Ride the News on Instagram. They were covering the election, and you remember Clayton County outside Atlanta was kind of the news for stuff. So they went down there to check out what was going on with the election, and like any good reporter would do, they knew to go to the Waffle House to get the scoop. And the lady at the Waffle House was talking about how, crime's so bad here that this Waffle House is now drive-through after a certain time. And just off the cuff, she says, yeah, everybody has to donate plasma to make money. And the reporter was like, well, that's weird. So he Googled plasma center, and he went to the one nearest by to this Waffle House. And sure enough, it's a plasma center in a strip mall in Metro Atlanta. And there's just all sorts of people hanging out in the parking lot waiting to go in, and people coming out, low
But the
income
funny
minorities.
thing is on that story, when they dug into it, they wouldn't take your plasma if you'd been jabbed.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that part yet. I just thought it was interesting that, the guy, they start researching, they found this one plasma center. So let's start looking where other plasma centers are. And, all over America's inner cities are plasma centers.
What does that enable them to do? It enables them to identify all the local community members who haven't been jabbed. So they got that $100, and now they're all identified.
And it also goes deeper too. He looks into who owns these plasma centers. They're owned by European corporations, and they're shipping the plasma to Europe. America's inner cities have become plasma farms for Europe.
Because the blacks were suspicious enough about the jabs that half of them refused to take them.
Yeah.
Right?
I pulled it up.
In Europe, in some countries, they were mandatory, right? And so they've got no local host population to be making the jab-free plasma. So they're having to import the American stuff.
Right. And
so what a crazy story.
I just pulled it up right here, and there's a couple of the slides that I'll read here. It says the U.S. is just one of 5 countries that allows paid plasma, the liquid part of the blood that carries cells and protein, donations. Austria, Czech Republic, Germany, and Hungary are the other 4. The U.S. has fewer regulations than those countries, though, and its plasma industry is booming. Donating too much plasma can have negative health effects and blah, 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 blah. But blood products are now America's 10th biggest import or export. Plasma donation centers have disproportionately been set up in a handful of poor inner cities and are being operated by foreign companies seeking to serve their country's plasma demands. So, yeah.
So black people have literally been turned into farm animals by rich Europeans. What the fuck?
Yep.
I mean, they're being kept fat.
So you see, Reuters was saying that Biden's going to announce another $1.2 billion to Ukraine on Monday or Tuesday.
Oh, I can't wait. Why not?
Yeah, that's the Christmas gift to Zelensky. Probably be Christmas Eve.
I'm sure we're sending more to Israel too while we're at it.
I was really surprised there wasn't $50 billion in the CR for Israel. I was really surprised about that.
Oh, really?
Easily sneak that in. But he didn't, so I don't know what's
happening. That's got to be one of the first times that Israel hasn't got money in any pork bill that I can think of.
I'm guessing it's because Trump wants the credit for giving it to them. He didn't want it going in early.
Yeah, maybe that's why Dan Crenshaw is so hot under the collar recently. What?
The Israelis weren't too fussed about getting on the 25th of December, right? So.
I like how Israel is just kind of creeping into Syria at this point. At first it's, we're just going across the border here, well, we're going to take this hill line. That's a good strategic spot. Well, now we're going to go to this ceasefire from the 70s area. It's like,
yeah, but what people aren't focusing on is just that small amount of land that they've taken, right? just that small amount of land, provides 40% of the water for Jordan and 30% of the water for the whole fresh water for the whole of Syria. And the Israelis have now taken that.
I hate to tell Syria this, but that kiss it goodbye.
Down along with Mount Hermon, where
Yeah.
Satan supposedly dumped with the Legion of 300.
Yep.
Yeah, that they've taken all of that as well. You see the view from that. You're overlooking the whole of Lebanon and the whole, not the whole of it, but a good part of Syria and Jordan. It's an incredibly strategic location. And then because they didn't want pilgrims going there, they destroyed the crucifix that was at the top of the mountain.
Oh, well, great.
But Christians United for Israel, they'll send them a shitload of money to build a new crucifix, and then they'll keep the money and spit on it, and they'll go, hooray, can we send you some more money because we love it.
I'm sure next week we'll see the news story. Israel builds temporary wall to secure areas in Syria.
No, seriously, if you take 40% of a country's water,
oh, that's drastic.
That's a big deal, right? That's like a mega drought or something.
Every empire throughout history is run on water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm amazed at how little mainstream media traction that's getting.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are you though? I mean, talking bad about Israel.
People are real conscious. There's a lot of spots in the world where they were short of drinking water to start with. You lose 40% of it in a weekend, and you're not getting it back anytime, short of the second coming. It's a problem, right?
So in addition to the wall, they'll be like, oh, pay no attention to this pipeline we're building to the north. It's just for fuel, definitely not water.
Yeah. Speaking of like weird connections between the Middle East and Israel and Muslims and all the other stuff, there was another car of peace that ran through a Christmas market in Germany. But
you got to look at the details on that attack. He was a renounced Muslim, had been in Germany working as a doctor since 2006, and he was supporting some really far right anti-Islam Dutch politicians and stuff. So rather than him being your regular garden variety jihadi who wanted to take out some Christians, it was the complete opposite of that. The whole situation there is really weird, really.
So he plowed through like a Muslim event?
No, he plowed through a Christmas market in Magdeburg in Saxony, but he's not a crazy towhead. He's actually a guy who's renounced Islam and is backing publicly for years people like Geert Wilders in Holland.
I've also been seeing some stuff about him being basically like a super Zionist because he sees the Israelis killing the Palestinians as some like big flex on Islam in general. So he's like,
he was a 50-year-old Saudi Arabian doctor who'd been working in Germany since 2006. I mean, it's weird. That guy's background is real weird. But the point is he went to a rental agency, rented a big SUV, drove down the main thoroughfare at this Christmas market and hit 200 people, has mangled 80 and killed 5.
Well, America had our latest school shooter had such a weird background, doesn't fit any profiles unless you want to say she's a female version of the Columbine shooters.
Well, but was she? Was she actually molested by the police for years beforehand?
No, just kind of how she went about it. Yeah, I hear what you're saying there.
Right, but definitely there's some weird kind of transgender stuff going on there.
Well, they didn't even, last I saw, they didn't even think that was the case. She was like, what were they calling her? A femcell? She
seems to be, she's not trans. She was a biological female who is a biological female.
With a boyfriend even.
With a boyfriend. But she also had this, she's into this weird female empowerment internet subculture that is misandrist, hates men. And her manifesto was full, or should I say, Womanifesto, was so full of like toxic, all men must
Oh, did
die.
they get into her Google Drive finally?
I guess so. Somebody did. Well, what I saw of it, but yeah, she's like, men are irredeemable. All men must die. We got to get rid of them all. Doesn't matter if they're 8 months or 80 years old. They all need to go away. And it's just this, like.
So she goes into
Hey,
a school and shoots another
the globalists
girl.
would be pretty happy to facilitate that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then she goes into the school, and she, with her weird man-hating ideology that she's got, ends up killing a female teacher and a female student before she ends up getting perforated herself. Puts her manifesto on Google Drive, but forgets to unlock it, so it takes forever to actually get it. It's like, you can't do fucking anything right, and you all want equal pay.
Hey, look on the bright side. She won't be driving on Christmas Eve.
No. Yeah, that was such a weird story. She did. I mean, what the fuck? None of it made any sense.
But the Biden administration did still say that because she shot people with a handgun, that was a good reason for banning assault weapons.
Yes, because everything the Biden administration does makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and she didn't hit any of the school shooter check mark. I mean, I saw maybe she was bullied, but it sounded like she had a good relationship with her dad. Practiced gun safety. It was so weird.
Yeah, they're trying to drag the dad through the mud because he was, teaching her how to shoot and everything. And there's, I guess, online videos on Instagram and Twitter of her, like, a few days before the shooting. She was out at the range with her dad, and they're like, "Oh, well, this dad is accessory to homicide or something." It's is he though?
Yeah. Dad spending time with his daughter doing something they both enjoyed, and then she just snapped. Totally unpredictable.
Between her and the guy in Germany that plowed through the Christmas market, it really feels like some type of an MK Ultra thing, and somebody accidentally said the trigger
Or people
word.
are just broken. Everything is so fucked up and weird that people you can't even predict anymore. They're just going to start snapping.
But the reaction from Musk was interesting, wasn't it? He said that the German Chancellor, who has already got an election date of the 23rd of February, should immediately resign. Great. So we're going to have the leader of the Green Party, the Deputy Chancellor, take over for 2 months. How's that going to freaking improve anything?
It's not. Sometimes Elon just needs to kind of keep his opinions to himself. He's getting a little bit too into his ability.
He's literally like ruler of the world at this point, right?
Yeah, I think it's kind of going to his head a little bit.
It really looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, his opinion is carrying more weight than it ought to. And it doesn't help the fact that the media and the Democrat Party are kind of pushing that narrative that everybody bows to Elon. It's not true, but he does have an outsized influence on.
Yeah, that could backfire. Everybody bows to Elon. Then you got your potato heads that we talked about earlier. They're voting. Well, everybody's bowing to Elon. I mean, you must be doing something right.
It's even gone so far that I've seen both Marjorie Taylor Greene and Rand Paul suggest that he should be nominated and elected to be Speaker of the House.
Mm-hmm.
If they can.
I've never understood why somebody doesn't pick a non-elected Speaker of the House. It makes sense to me.
Right. Personally, if you're going to go from the pull from the Doge card, I would rather have Vivek Ramaswamy than Elon Musk.
Come on. That guy's super invested in mRNA, and so is his brother.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, probably because he realizes when he can steal money from suckers when he sees it.
Yeah. So no, old Ramaswamy is not humanity's friend, that's for sure.
Any other? What else is going on in the world, Simon? Besides everybody losing their fucking minds.
The big news of the week that the Europeans were kind of freaking out about, but once again didn't get much traction here, was Putin saying he's going to do a demonstration attack on Kiev, and that he's going to tell them the exact location, the exact day, the exact time in advance, and he's invited them to bring every air defense system they've got, and he'll defeat everything with the Oreshenik.
The modern day duel, as he calls it.
So this is another kinetic weapon, I take it?
which I did predict the day that the Russian nuclear deterrence doctrine was published on the 19th of November. And I said, look here, there's express authorization for the commander-in-chief of the Russian Strategic Rocket Forces to warn countries of an attack. And I specifically said, this is the setup for a demonstration attack, which is exactly what he said.
I remember you said that.
Yeah, I was 1 month later to the day, exactly freaking correct. And I was the only person to not only read the whole thing out line by line, but explain what the significance of that was a month in advance.
It's awful damn gentlemanly of him to give them the exact.
So what are we gonna? What do you think's gonna happen? We're gonna find out that Russia had a refrigerator-sized case of tungsten in space this whole time, and it's gonna strike Kiev, or
no? It's the Oreshnik, isn't it? It's the hypersonic, the new hypersonic they've got.
He's just gonna use that one again. Okay.
But this time it's not going to be a surprise attack. It's going to be, I will prove to you that this is unstoppable. And that's specifically what he said. And he said, I'm going to choose a part of Kiev, and I'll tell you the day, the time, and the place, and you can fly everything you've got in THAAD, Patriot, IRST, whatever you want. And we'll literally, like, say, 3 o'clock on Tuesday in bright full daylight. Here it comes. Do your best. And it's just going to smash past everything.
And either way, it's win-win for him. If it gets through and destroys a strategic target, then he wins.
The people were freaking out about this, and I said, "Be glad he's giving you a chance to surrender."
Yeah.
So what is he trying to prove here? That people need to realize that nukes are obsolete now, or
if the Europeans and America want to push it to nuclear war, that they have no effective missile defense network, and he can load nukes onto those and just take out whatever the hell he wants.
Yep.
And we've talked about this in the past. I mean, where did America fuck up in their research that they're so far behind on supersonics, it seems, or is that just a show?
Hypersonics, no.
Or hypersonic, yeah.
Generation behind or something.
I mean, that's a massive failure on the whole military-industrial complex. And
Houthis are shooting hypersonics at Israel. They fired one. The Israelis fired 15 interceptor missiles at it against the fucking Houthis, who aren't even a country, right? And none of them were able to take it out. 15. David Sling, Arrow 3, Patriot, THAAD. Nothing could hit it from the Houthis. So imagine what the Chinese and the Russians have got.
Well, that makes me wonder if they have a defense, or is there no defense for hyper? Is that going to be the point? There's just no way.
I mean, hypersonic.
You can't beat physics.
Mark 5 or something. Putin's saying this goes Mark 10.
Chinese Mark 10. I saw that.
15 stuff. And he's saying we don't even need to put nukes on this. He said the kinetic energy is so high because it's half mv squared for the kinetic energy, right? Half mass velocity squared, right? He said, the amount of energy that's released when this thing hits its target is as destructive as a nuke without any fallout or any residual radiation.
So, you said the Houthis came up with it. Obviously, this technology isn't that advanced, less advanced than coming up with a nuke. I mean, is everybody's just going to be popping these off at that point, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they're literally, goat herding half the day and making hypersonics the other half the day.
We get into a sunk cost fallacy now with America's building all these nukes. Well, it's not the latest and greatest now.
Multi-billion-dollar,
upgrades, yeah.
Virginia class subs at X billion dollars a pop, running at 2 years per sub instead of 1 year per sub. So we're putting them out at a half the rate we said we were going to do it 10 years ago. And these guys are literally building this shit in sheds.
Well, and apparently should have been like the orcs of the Warhammer universe. Faster's better. Just,
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's a serious technological problem. And, America's still fixated on like bloody aircraft carriers and stuff. I mean, how vulnerable are those to this kind of system?
Oh, I'm so glad my son's in the Navy. I'm so glad he's not on an aircraft carrier. They're just targets at this point.
Yeah, the
I
aircraft carriers took out battleships. Battleships took out wood-hulled sailing ships, and now hypersonic missiles are taking out aircraft carriers.
They could easily. They haven't yet, but shit, easy
making
to
them
do.
obsolete.
You know, all the fast tracking Gatling whatever isn't going to stop a chunk of metal moving at Mach fuck. It's
Yeah.
Nothing stops that.
What is Fox squared?
What's that?
What is Fox squared when you're calculating?
Yeah. We're hitting the hour. We're going to leave you on that high note.
Great.
Hope you don't know anybody stationed on an aircraft carrier.
Yeah. Well, it could be worse, right? They made the USS Reagan sail into that plume from Fukushima, right?
Or any surface ship for that.
Oh
matter.
yeah. If you got a kid that wants to join the Navy, recommend a submarine. That's the safest one there. Everything else is a target.
Yeah.
Yep. We're spending billions of dollars on aircraft carriers and destroyers and literal combat ships and all this other shit that can be taken out by a kinetic charge from a hypersonic missile. We're spending all of this money on these high-tech advanced fighter jets that could probably be taken out by a drone swarm.
Don't forget in that nuclear doctrine from the Russians that came, which Putin talked about in his year-end speech on what was that, Thursday or Friday, right? In it, they mentioned 3 types of space weapons and directed energy weapons being used not by the police but on a strategic anti-country level.
Right.
Okay. So when you've got people like mocking people who talk about DW, no, the Russians have put that in their doctrine now. You use this against us, we're treating that like a nuke. Just like Hillary said, you cyber fry us for our infrastructure, and we're going to treat that like you nuked us.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So they didn't put that in there for fun. They put that in there because they think that other people have it and could use it.
Right. Yeah. That's I think would probably be the closest path that you could take to getting some kind of a defense against the hypersonics would be something laser based.
Yeah, well, the Brits
than light.
Come up with this Dragon Slayer or Dragon Breath or something like this, some crazy medieval name they come up with, which is laser anti-missile technology, which they claim they're going to give to the Ukrainians, obviously to test the hell out of.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of stuff is being rolled out. But if I may, just before you wrap up, if I could just remind people, if you don't mind, that they can find us on weaponizednews.com. And we are having an end of year campaign, not for money, but just to try and get over 500 active subscribers on YouTube, but also 3,000 viewed hours. And we're at, 1,500 or something. And we've created a playlist on YouTube now where you can go and actually play continuously our last 12 documentaries, which range from an hour to 2 hours in length. And they're all there for free.
Which I haven't watched all of them. They're very good, but...
No, and that's the thing. They're aging fantastically well. So even stuff that I was putting out a year ago, hand on heart, I've rewatched some of these things and I'm like, damn, that was prescient. I'm not going back issuing like corrections and apologies.
But you should watch all of them. But worst case, leave them running so Simon can hit those numbers, right?
Is, play them on your ex-wife's YouTube account overnight and get her stalked by the deep state instead of your kids. Alternatively, you can just follow and that would really help us. We're trying to be self-sustaining without hounding people for donations. The person that I am trying to get a few donations for, because she's a great info warrior and I love how she calls into C-SPAN and NPR and drops these truth bombs so viciously that they alter their transcripts to edit her out, all right, or change what she's saying. And that's Candice K. Morris, who's on Facebook. And you know her, don't you guys? Because she regularly calls into InfoWars. You know, along with me, and you guys, she's like a really, really regular caller. So she's got like a real personal transportation crisis. And she was in like some downtown store in Nashville, and her coordinators had it, and the battery wasn't charging. She had to have some guy like jump her car. He probably tried to jump her as well. She's quite good looking. And when she lifted the hood, her purse, her like small purse, like a guy's like wallet, fell out of her jacket pocket. So not only she stuffed on that, but she lost a load of her Christmas money as well. So she's really in a personal crisis, and she's just trying to raise $600 by year end. We're a third of the way there. But if people, she's on Give, Send, Go, and on Facebook and on Twitter, and
they can find that link. You shared that link on your Twitter.
Yeah, so
account.
it's the real easy shortcut to it is G for golf, E for echo, the number 7, K for kilo, and the number 7. And if we can just get like 80 people to give $5 each, some people have already been real generous, and she's got like $200 so far. She needs 600 to get a new coordinator installed, and who knows if her battery's fried? It probably is as well. And you know, she's very active in terms of doing research and calling into regular radio shows, C-SPAN, NPR, InfoWars, been on my show 3 times, and does great research. But she's literally like disabled and living on Social Security disability. So for her, that kind of hit is extreme. You think how awkward it would be for you to lose your wallet, but if you're living on like less than $1,000 a month and your car dies at the same weekend, that's a real personal crisis. So people, if they literally would just give her $5, it would make a huge difference. And it's GE7K7 on Give, Send, Go. It's all been like verified campaign. It's for a specific purpose. I told her where to go to get the alternator tested and the battery tested and stuff, and she's done all that. She knows exactly what the problem is, and she just needs to raise the money to do it. Because without that, she's basically homebound, so she can't get to the public library. She gets books donated from local bookshops, which she then scours for historical information. And at the moment, she can't even afford an internet connection, so she can't even broadcast as much as she was doing. I mean, she's really, fortunately, she had enough food to last her to the end of the month. She lives with her elderly mother as well. And this person is really worthy of people banging a few dollars to before the end of the year. And
so I threw that up there on the sticky note, the G7K. Oh, you said K7 or K Zulu?
GE7, K7, Golf Echo Kilo 7. Yeah.
So I got that up there.
So she's got all the details on Give, Send, Go. It's at 205, so we're kind of a third of the way there. And you know what? She put Plum's song, Lord, I Need You Now, which I'm pretty sure was pretty heartfelt. But what was interesting, though, I don't know whether she planned this or not, it came up on the campaign with the first line of that song lyric, and it says, everybody has got a story. And she really does.
Great.
Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to, go on that too long.
No, we always like to, friends of the show, get that out there. Go follow it. And if you're, for some reason, you're not following Simon on Weaponized News, go find him on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook. You guys are on Facebook now, right?
Yeah, but we're on all these things until we get banned. Right? I mean,
probably the best bet's Rumble.
In writing by X twice that I'm flagged for this. What do they call it? Legal but awful, or whatever it was that Yacarinda said. And they've told me that in writing twice.
Well, we got a no for Hobbs interviewing a gun guy last week on YouTube. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, it is still crazy out there. When they did that, my impressions per week got cut from 30,000 or 30 odd thousand to 4,500. they cut my outreach by 85%. And I'm
Yeah.
not putting out any porn, no super gory amputations from Gaza. It's commentary on mainstream, a lot of really obscure kind of Indonesian, Polish, Jordanian, Indian think tanks, Pakistan think tanks. Like, we even joke in Infowars, it's like Simon Prince of the obscure, right? but that does help fill in the big picture.
Right.
And I tend not to be like the Pee Wee soccer team. I am the goalie while the other 10 kids chase the ball.
Yep. So yeah, you can find that on web. Watch their stuff. Like he said, go find them on YouTube and put the documentary playlist up.
Those documentaries, the new American nuclear doctrine, most people don't even know that America issued that to Congress on the 15th of November, 4 days before the Russians. So everyone's finally talking about the Russian one. Well, I read it out on day one live, right? I beat Scott Richard to that. I called him on his show and said, "Hey, do you want to go through this?" And he said, "Oh yeah, like maybe like next week or something." And he's still never read it. So
yeah,
why these people, and Lavrov and Putin were saying, you've got to read this in its entirety and see how this factors in with our national strategic security doctrine. And people are talking about excerpts and mistranslations and wow, this like proves this, but I'm like, the document's 27 articles long, and if you've seen headlines about 3 of them, you've literally only got 11% of the document, and you're making strategic policy decisions based upon 11%. When I was in a particular finance industry, right, they used to have an interview question, and they used to say to people, what percentage of information would you be comfortable with in order to take a risk on behalf of your institution, right? And they were looking for people to be traders in like foreign exchange or bonds or options or equities or whatever, right?
Mhm.
To say 60%, right? Because they thought mathematically anything over 50 meant you had a better chance of winning, right?
Yeah.
But if you've got people making national defense and nuclear posture decisions based upon 11% of the information, that doesn't have a good probability of a positive outcome.
Well, the future of the world's way less important than profit. So
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, you go check them out. You get the news before it's news. Great show over there. Him and Sam do. Follow us on everything. If you're on Rumble, go find us on YouTube. Find us on Rumble. We're on Facebook, but we're pretty much dead on Facebook. Nothing gets pushed out, but you can follow us there if you want. Maybe they'll change that someday. But thanks for
by the way,
yeah.
guys, can I extend an invite to both or you individually? I'm going to have a few absent days. I'm going to be traveling, as you often are, a few days in January. So if you would like to do some airtime with Sam, he'd be real happy to host you. Okay.
Yeah, hit us up off list with dates and times, and
sure. Okay.
we'll pop.
Thank you. Thanks for considering that.
And find all of us on multiple platforms, so in case anything happens, you can still hear from us. And for myself and Hobbs, thanks again, and stay honky.